is one of the most relentless heavyweights in boxing history. Rocky Marciano is the only heavyweight champion who is known to retire undefeated. 49 wins, 43 knockouts, 0 losses. This man flattened every opponent who dared step into the ring with him, but he wasn't born a giant. His strength didn't come from size or raw talent alone. He forged a training routine so ruthless in discipline, so merciless, so brutal, it turned a 5 feet 10-inch fighter into one of the greatest heavyweight boxers of all time. This is more than just a story of boxing, it's a saga of war. By the end of this video, you'll know the monstrous methods behind Rocky Marciano's training, a masterclass in conditioning and willpower. I'm Takeshi Fit, and I'm here to show how you can train like your favorite celebrities and characters. Let's break down the training blueprint of Rocky Marciano that turned an underdog into a historic legend. And if you want more content like this, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Rocky Marciano, the Brockton blockbuster, was born a son of Italian immigrants scraping by in a Massachusetts shoe factory, who forged himself into the only heavyweight champion to retire undefeated. His training is a combination of old-school fundamentals and unorthodox tricks that made him completely unstoppable, and quite frankly, would destroy almost any athlete nowadays. That's because he waged war on the gym every day, and his mentality was all about sheer grit. But before that, let's dive into fundamentals first, where all legends are built. His trainer, Charlie Goldman, said Rocky was the only fighter he ever had to pull back. Tell him to hit that bag 300 times, and Rocky'd grin and say, "Let me do a couple hundred more, Charlie." That's a man obsessed with perfection, and sparring was his laboratory. He'd go hundreds of rounds in camp, nearly 300 for a big fight, leaving sparring partners bruised and begging off. Rocky chuckled once and said, "They started getting scarce, so I knew I was doing something right." But also, he'd spar without headgear sometimes, taking shots to dish out more, all the while building a jaw that could eat punches and fists that wouldn't quit. For you fighters out there, this is the gospel. Fundamentals aren't sexy, but they're everything. Rocky drilled them until they were muscle memory. Just picture him in the gym, sweat dripping, hammering a heavy bag until the chains rattled, snapping the speed bag like it owed him money. Shadowboxing, where focused on perfecting the crouch, Goldman taught him to shrink his target and explode upward with looping bombs. Because in his training, every punch had a purpose, as opposed to just doing mindless repetition. He did lots of heavy bag sessions where he forged that freakish power, turning each swing into a knockout waiting to happen. The speed bag sharpened his timing, those crisp pops echoing through the gym like a metronome of destruction. And sparring, he treated it like a title fight. Before his rematch with Jersey Joe Walcott, he and Goldman dissected film, spotted Walcott's tells, and planned an early blitz. So during fight night, he does a first-round KO, a massacre born in the gym's brutal fires. But that wasn't by luck, it was because of the blueprint that was executed to perfection. Alright, this is what a day in the life of Rocky Marciano looked like. His camp was a machine, starting at 6 a.m. sharp. By 6:30, he was already pounding the pavement on his morning run. Then came calisthenics. By 8 o'clock, he'd refuel with a fighter's breakfast, eggs, meat, and tea. Then, at 9:30, the real work began. The gym was his battlefield. Heavy bag sessions, shadowboxing drills, endless sit-ups. After a light lunch, or a quick nap to recover, he was back at it by 3:30, this time stepping into the ring for sparring, pad work, and more bag drills. By 5:30, supper was served, but even his downtime had purpose. You'd often find him on an evening walk. Then, tea by 8 o'clock and lights out by 9:30, because in Rocky's world, rest wasn't optional. Even Sundays were just a lighter version of the same routine, since there was no such thing as off for Marciano. Every piece of his day was connected toward becoming a legend, one day at a time. Apart from that, Rocky wasn't content with the ordinary, and that's where he found some creative ways of training. These are some of Marciano's unconventional tricks, where grit meets genius. Him wading into a swimming pool, water up to his shoulders, throwing punches for 45 minutes straight. With the water resistance, he threw jabs, turning his arms into pistons and his stamina into iron. Back on dry land, he'd have a partner slam a medicine ball into his gut over and over, hardening his core against the body shots that felled lesser men. That heavy bag of his, some say it was 300 pounds, a beast he'd pound for 45 minutes non-stop. Bottom line, Rocky trained to build a body that could give and take punishment like nobody else. Even the speed bag got the Marciano treatment. Rocky smashed it, the noise bouncing off the walls, strengthening his wrists and shoulders with every hit. And those stories about wood chopping, some swore he swung an axe for power, but insiders laughed it off. Rocky didn't chop wood. Instead, he channeled that energy into boxing-specific chaos, like that oversized bag or pool shadow boxing. Water resistance mimicked the drag of a long fight, medicine ball thumps prepped him for the trenches, and that heavy bag taught him to keep swinging when exhaustion crept in. It's a lesson for any athlete. Innovate, but make it functional. Now, let's talk about strength and conditioning. His training turned his body into a weapon. Like many old-school fighters, he didn't do heavy weights, saying they'd kill his speed. Instead, he crushed high-rep calisthenics, push-ups, pull-ups, squats, dips, hundreds daily. He'd brace against doorways, pressing hard for isometric strength, and keep his frame tight without bulking up. His core was a fortress. Rocky would lie on a slant board, head low, and crank out torso raises for 20 minutes, strengthening the abs that let him throw deadly punches. But also, he did neck bridges to thicken his neck against blows to the head. He also did hand grips and chair lifts overhead to work on his forearms for clinches and punches. On walks, he'd snatch rocks and hurl them, turning a breather into shoulder and midsection work. Trainer Lou Duva saw it firsthand. We're just walking after dinner, and Rocky's picking up rocks, throwing them, stooping for his core, tossing for his arms. For amateurs, this is your playbook. No gym, no problem. Body weight done right builds a beast, and Rocky's proof of that. Then there's road work, the engine that never quit. Rocky's legs were his secret weapon. Every morning, rain, snow, Christmas Day, he'd lace up and run 5 to 6 miles. No excuses. Fight camp cranked it to 7 to 10 miles. And in the final weeks, he'd tackle 12 to 15 over Grausinger's brutal hills. He also sprinted uphill, ran backward downhill for agility, and all the while, pouring his soul into every stride. Goldman once hid his shoes to stop him from overdoing it. Rocky just grinned and kept going. That road work built a gas tank that crushed bigger men who couldn't keep up. Apart from physical training, while pounding those trails, he'd visualize himself in the late rounds, breaking opponents who'd gassed out. He said, "Fighting's mainly condition. Going 15 rounds at high speed, that's conditioning." For martial artists, this is non-negotiable. Hit the road, sprint, push your limits. Rocky's stamina was the byproduct of sheer effort, earned mile by mile. That's the thing, everything about that guy was 100% effort, so you must assume he ran his ass off. He'd sprint mountains, weave through trails, and even wear heavy boots to up the ante. And sometimes he'd take evening walks on top of road work, 5-10 miles more, as active training, also tossing rocks to keep his engine running. That's how Rocky outlasted giants. Now let's talk about diet and how he fueled up. Rocky ate with purpose. After a run, his breakfast consisted of cornflakes with 2 raw eggs, blueberries, vitamin pills, lamb chops or steak, tea with honey, with no sugar. Then, lunch was light. He often had soup, fruit, or nothing at all, so he could stay sharp for training. As for dinner, he loaded up with soup, green salad, 2 steaks or chicken, and fruit for dessert. Rocky ditched his beloved spaghetti in camp, keeping it lean. He mainly drank water and tea for hydration and avoided alcohol and cigarettes to keep his body clean. Rocky's diet was the epitome of health back then, said trainer Ali Colombo. He kept things simple, clean food, and high protein, without the need for powders. Then, let's talk about recovery. Rest wasn't lazy for Rocky. Bed by 9:30 p.m., 9+ hours in a fresh air room. Then, post-breakfast, a 2 or 3 hour nap, skipping lunch to recharge. After training, he'd hot baths, saunas, or massages to loosen him up. And after that, slow walks to flush lactic acid. During camps, he treated it as a fortress. No family, no handshakes, no germs. He even swatted away Hollywood starlets like Jane Mansfield, sticking to his women weaken legs creed. Main takeaways from his recovery: sleep like it's your job, recover smart, eliminate distractions. Rocky's body thrived because he respected it. Those baths and massages kept him pliable, while walks were strategic and not downtime. Let's talk about his mental edge. Rocky's mind was granite, and he lived by a mantra: outwork everyone. His blue-collar roots and an early amateur loss, gassing out in front of his hometown, lit a fire he never let die. On runs, he'd visualize late-round knockouts. In sparring, he'd take a punch to land 2 while training pain out of his system. He'd stay calm, even if he was down on points, trusting his gas tank to turn the tide. The repetitive routine removed stress and decision fatigue while honing focus and discipline. And it wasn't anything mystical. Grind the hard days, visualize wins, lock in habits. Rocky's visualization was surgical. He'd feel the fatigue, see the opponent crumble, and that's how he stayed unbreakable. Rocky's training still slaps and was a total rejection of mediocrity. His cardio broke spirits, his strength was pure destruction, and his mind was steel. Even his trainer Goldman said, Rocky begged for more rounds, more everything. Marciano dominated because he outworked the world, and trained like it's life or death. If you found this valuable, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Share your thoughts down below, and I'll see you on the next one.